Before we begin, take a quiet second for yourself. And if stories that stay with you matter, make sure you subscribe to the channel. This is not just a place for passing time. This is where stories settle into your thoughts, where they echo long after the video ends, and sometimes where they gently change the way you look at your own life. Because some moments don't arrive loudly. They don't break doors open or demand attention. They don't announce themselves with chaos or urgency. Instead, they slip in softly, almost invisibly, like a quiet shift in the air. And by the time you notice them, something inside you has already changed. Today's story is about one of those moments, the kind that doesn't shatter your life in a single second, but slowly, patiently rearranges everything you thought was stable. My name is Serena. I'm 38 years old, and for most of my life, I truly believed I had things figured out. Not perfectly, no one ever does, but enough to feel secure, grounded, safe in the structure I had built around myself. I had what most people would describe as a good life. The kind of life that looks complete when viewed from the outside. A husband who worked hard, a home that felt peaceful, a son who, despite his unconventional choices, made me proud in ways I didn't always say out loud. Everything seemed in place. But life has a way of revealing truth slowly, not through dramatic events or loud conflicts, but through silence. Through the quiet spaces where something is missing, even if you can't yet name it. My husband, Matthew, was the kind of man people admire, driven, focused, responsible. His days were filled with meetings, business trips, deadlines, and calls that never seemed to end. He worked hard, really hard, and he made sure we never lacked anything material. Bills were paid. The house was maintained. Our life, on paper, was stable. And for a long time, I convinced myself that this was enough. Because isn't that what we're taught? That love can quietly exist beneath responsibility. That presence can be replaced by provision. That if someone is doing their duty, then the emotional connection will somehow take care of itself. But the truth is, comfort can fill a house. It cannot fill a heart. Even when Matthew sat beside me, there was a distance I couldn't ignore. His body was there, but his attention was always somewhere else. Lost in numbers, emails, strategies, or conversations that had nothing to do with us. At first, I tried not to notice. Then I tried to understand. Then I tried to fix it. But eventually, I stopped, because there's something deeply exhausting about trying to reach someone who doesn't realize you're drifting away. Our conversations became shorter over time, not hostile. Not cold, just empty. Did you pay the bill? What time will you be back? Do you need anything from the store? Functional, efficient, necessary, but completely devoid of connection. Dinner became quiet. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the heavy kind. The kind where words exist somewhere between two people, but neither knows how to bring them into the room. Nights felt longer than they should have, and slowly, without even realizing it, I began to feel something I never expected to feel inside my own home. Lonely. Loneliness isn't always about being alone. Sometimes, it's about being surrounded by everything you once wanted, and still feeling like something essential is missing. I would walk from room to room some days, not because I had something to do, but because I needed to hear movement. Needed to remind myself that I existed inside that space, that I wasn't slowly fading into it. And then there was my son, Leo. He was 20 years old, full of energy, opinions, and a kind of independence that both worried me and made me proud at the same time. He didn't follow the path most people expected. He didn't go to college. He didn't chase the traditional idea of success. Instead, he worked long hours at a grocery store, physical work, honest work, the kind that demands effort and gives you reality in return. Part of me worried he was missing out, on freedom, on opportunities. But another part of me admired him deeply, because he wasn't pretending. He was building his life in his own way. Still, there was distance between us too. Not the same kind I had with Matthew, but a quieter separation. We lived in the same house, shared the same space, but we rarely shared ourselves. That summer was unbearable, the kind of heat that doesn't just stay outside, it seeps into everything. Into the walls, the air, your breath, even time itself felt slower, heavier. I would sit by the window for hours sometimes, watching sunlight blur the edges of the street, watching people pass by, watching life continue, while feeling strangely disconnected from it. One morning, after Matthew left for another business trip, something shifted. The house felt different, too quiet. Leo had already gone to work, and suddenly, a thought hit me harder than I expected. When was the last time this place felt like a home? Not just a structure, not just a house, but a space filled with warmth, with connection, with life. I couldn't remember. Around noon, Leo came back. Sweat clung to his shirt, his face flushed from the heat. "Mom, it's insanely hot today," he said, dropping a bag of snacks on the counter. He poured himself a glass of water and sat across from me. For a moment, we just sat there, the clock ticking, the ceiling fan creaking softly above us. It should have felt normal, but instead, it felt like we were both waiting for something, neither of us knowing how to say it. Later that afternoon, I noticed something small, the sound of running water from the bathroom. It wasn't important. It wasn't unusual, but somehow, it stayed with me, because it made me realize something I had been avoiding for a long time. We were living parallel lives, close enough to see each other, too far to truly connect. The next day, Matthew left again, another week-long trip, and this time, the emptiness didn't just linger, it deepened. That's when something unexpected happened. Leo approached me, not casually, not in passing, but with intention. "Mom, what if we took a trip?" he asked. "Just the two of us, like a reset." His words caught me off guard. Not because they were strange, but because they were meaningful. It felt like he was reaching for something we had both been, missing connection, time, understanding. But instead of saying yes, I hesitated. I thought about Matthew, about what it might mean, about what it might look like. And so I smiled softly and said, "Maybe another time." I saw it in his eyes, that brief flicker of disappointment. Subtle, but real, and it stayed with me longer than I expected. That evening, something shifted between us. We sat together as the sun began to set, the warm light filling the room, and for the first time in a long time, we talked, not about schedules, not about responsibilities, but about life. He told me stories from his childhood, things he remembered that I had forgotten. Laughed, genuinely, the kind of laughter that comes from shared memories, from recognition, from feeling, even briefly, like everything is okay. At one point, I asked him about his love life, half joking. He laughed at first, but then he grew quiet, and after a moment he said something that stayed with me. "Sometimes, I just wish this house felt like home again." He didn't say it with anger. There was no blame in his voice, just honesty. And somehow, that made it hurt more because I realized he felt it too. The distance, the silence, the absence of something we couldn't quite name. Later that night, he asked me something I wasn't prepared for. "Mom, why do you seem so distant lately? Why don't you smile like you used to?" For a moment, I almost brushed it off, gave him a simple answer, changed the subject. But something in his voice stopped me, and for the first time in years, I told the truth. I told him about the loneliness, about the distance between me and his father, about the quiet sadness that had slowly become part of my everyday life. I didn't dramatize it, didn't exaggerate it. I just spoke honestly, and he didn't interrupt, didn't judge, didn't try to fix it. He just listened. Then he placed his hand gently on my shoulder and said something simple. "Mom, I'm here." And in that moment, something inside me broke. Not in a destructive way, but in a releasing way. And I cried. Not because everything was wrong, but because for the first time in a long time, something felt right. The days that followed felt different, not dramatically, not instantly, but subtly. Like something had shifted beneath the surface. I began to understand something important, that emotional closeness doesn't need to cross boundaries to be powerful. That honesty, vulnerability, and connection can exist in a healthy way if we recognize it, respect it, and understand it. And I realized something else too. I needed help. Not because I was broken, but because I had been carrying too much for too long. When Matthew returned, I couldn't pretend anymore. I told him everything. Not about moments, but about feelings, about distance, about the silence that had taken over our home. At first, he was quiet. Then he said something I'll never forget. I didn't know, and I believed him. Because sometimes, people don't see what's slowly fading, especially when they're focused on holding everything else together. The weeks that followed weren't easy, but they were real. Matthew began to change slowly. He reduced his travel, made time. Not perfectly, but intentionally. I started therapy, facing emotions I had ignored for years, understanding patterns, learning boundaries, learning myself again. And Leo, he moved out, not because something was wrong, but because something was right. He needed space to grow, to build his own life, to become who he was, meant to be. We started having weekly family dinners, simple but meaningful. We talked, we listened, we laughed again, and slowly, very slowly, the house began to feel different. Not perfect, but alive. I learned something through all of the